Welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where our experts will share best practices on running your firm in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by CountingWorks Pro. Let's get started.
So welcome to another episode of the Growth Minded Accountant. My name is Lee Reams. I am the founder and CEO of CountingWorks. And today is going to be our final episode on demographic marketing. It's going to be, if you've been following, I know it's tax season, but we've done everything from boomers, millennials, Gen X, and now we're doing Gen Z. So basically what we're doing is trying to kind of define each demographic. I know you can't pigeonhole everybody, but what are the things that motivate them as a group? Can we dive into some specific things, some actionable strategies, meaning where you're marketing to Gen Z clients is going to be different than how you market to boomer clients, for example. And with so many new opportunities in the Gen Z side being influencers, specifically crypto, there are a lot of them own crypto. NIL now with sports, we have the big court case that sooner or later, I saw this morning there was an article in ESPN of a lower level Division I team that was going to basically say we're putting $10 million that needs to be spent on athletes. So there's going to be a whole new way. Is this income? Are they 1099s? Is there unemployment taxes? Where are there state issues? So there's going to be a lot of different tax things that are going to affect a large audience of basically new opportunities, right? So today we are here. We basically are calling this podcast Gen Z and the New Wave of Influencers in Tax and Accounting. And we're going to basically kind of go over everything here. So we're going to discuss tailored approaches for social platforms. Obviously, you want to be where they are. We're going to provide real world examples of messaging that resonates with this digitally native audience. We're going to introduce a kind of a new, thought or way to penetrate this market through family tax planning and prep services, how you can package your services in a new way, where if you're a boomer or Gen X are your main clients, how can you group the entire family and then create something, a package that really talks even estate planning, business succession planning, all sorts of ways to minimize the taxes when estates are passed on. So there's a lot of ways to tackle this group that are a little more lucrative than you think. So normally when people think Gen Z, I'm like, I'm not going to bother. They may be in the DIY mindset. And we're to give you actually some ways to counter that. So I am joined today again with Rebekah. She is our Chief Visibility Officer. Rebekah, if you would like to say hello.
Hey, everybody. I'm excited to get into this today.
And let's start here. We'll define a little bit of what Gen Z is. So they're not only what we call digitally native. Basically, they brought up on their phones, devices. They're always connected, right? But they're also one that really looks after brands that are very transparent, authentic, and I would say have a lot of innovation. Things that are a little different than what most tax and accounting firms are doing. So this generation may be more excited about an AI chatbot on your website, where after hours, I can go ask a tax question and the AI answers the question. You have the ability, if you're using Max and our tools at CountingWorks Pro, to be able to see what that dialogue is, to be able to engage in and continue the conversation. But those are just like a real easy way, not just a client hub, like a digitally uploading files, but a digital way that this market might be more in tune to use than maybe a boomer or millennial client. So what we did today is we've written a bunch of different blog articles, and we kind of combined them all. Originally, we were just going to do Gen Z, but I wanted to add in some of this NIL stuff, the student athletes, the influencers, because it pertains so much to this generation as well. And then also a little bit of this family tax planning and prep services and some ideas on how this works. So who are the Gen Z? They were born in the mid to late 1990s and early 2010s. As I've said, they are digital native. They expect seamless, transparent, and user-friendly interaction. So what does that mean? They're used to TikTok. They're used to all these different devices, Netflix, whatever, games, right? They are used to really easy, intuitive things. They don't need training modules. They don't need tutorials to learn how to use things. And they're much more apt to purchase things online. They're the people that are buying the shoes from an Instagram ad. So if you are presenting yourself in a certain way, that isn't perhaps the way you market again to your older clients, you will be able to connect with them in different ways than you're used to. Mostly, and again, these are talking points, not necessarily everyone's here. They're socially, environmentally responsible. They are tech first. So, they're raised again on their smartphones. They expect instant access and instant results. They favor services that are mobile friendly and digitally integrated. And they love transparency and authenticity, which I just said. So they expect clear, honest communication and value personal, relatable stories. So these are like things that maybe will kind of give you some ideas on how I should communicate and start working with them. So let's talk about that and then how tax and accounting firms can tailor their messaging for Gen Z. So how should they, Rebekah? Like, what is the approach? What do you do? Jargon free, I think, is a good way to say it, but let's jump into this.
Yeah, for sure. Jargon free is key. They don't care about buzzwords in the way that you might think. Using things like game changer isn't necessarily going to resonate with this group. So authenticity, as we already mentioned, absolutely critical. This generation does not want stuffy and buttoned up, right? They are not going to care if you're sitting there in a t-shirt, just talking to your phone, recording on your smartphone. This doesn't have to be overly polished. Like Lee mentioned, this is the TikTok generation. They value people just talking to them, telling them things the way it is. They don't care if it's overproduced. I talk to a lot of our clients who are like, well, I don't have a set. I don't have this. And I'm like, you don't need that. Like, you just need to sit and hold your phone up and flip the camera and talk and give them value. And that is all this generation wants. So that's critical. I also think just pointing out that your firm is very modern and tech savvy is important. Let them know that they're not going to have to be uploading or filling out spreadsheets for you, that kind of thing. They can just upload their documents into a portal. You'll handle the hard part. Everything can be done on their phone, their tablet, done on the go. This is also a generation that really, really values the ability to do things from anywhere. They want to be waiting on the subway and uploading a document. They want to be at dinner and answering a message from you. They don't want to be strapped to a desk, chained to a filing cabinet, that kind of thing. So that's really important. And the third thing I want to mention is that social impact that you talked about, Lee. So there's a couple of things here. You can go one of two ways. You can either be super transparent and trustworthy in your own firm, transparent pricing, no hidden fees, honest advice, no judgment about the situation you're in, that kind of thing. Or you can talk about causes you support. If you're super involved in like a local soup kitchen and your staff works there once a week or something like that, talk about that on social. Ask that organization if they would even be willing to do like a collaborative reel that's posted to both of your feeds. That'll expand your audience. It'll also tell younger clients who are in Gen Z and even millennials that you really care about social causes and that social justice is something that matters to you and your employees.
So before we get into, like the places you want to start communicating with them and meeting with them, let's talk about a process of how you would develop basically a targeted marketing campaign to Gen Z. So we have a process that we have put in place that starts with your narrative, kind of your story. It walks through, okay, let's figure this out. We're targeting Gen Z. So what should our marketing material look like if we're doing that? Are we creating a landing page and like a separate funnel that has this messaging? Is it a separate section within our website? Are we going to now segment our newsletter so that content that is specific to Gen Zs that will resonate with them, that will open their eyes and make them pay attention, whether that be through a newsletter and or extended to the social media side? So let's talk a little bit about, let's say, what are the talking points you should start putting together? What are the imagery you should start doing? What are those pain points we're trying to solve for this generation? And the example, big one is, let's just go to the NIL. And now you have literally millions of athletes that may have never even considered even filing a tax return, nevertheless understanding they have income coming from all these different sources. What is a 1099? Do I have set up my own entity? Am I an employee? There's all kinds of things that go with this. But let's go into a little bit, Rebekah. It's phase one. Okay, we decided we're going to niche and market to Gen Z. So now let's create a narrative and a story. Let's go through that process, what that should look like, and then maybe some suggestions of some pain points of things you want to identify. And then we'll go into kind of how we communicate, where we communicate, and how we close them as clients.
Sure. So segmentation, as always, is key. We've talked about that, I think, in every one of these podcasts, these generational ones. So if you know that you want to start hooking Gen Z, you are going to want to segment. You're going to want to segment your list. You're going to want to send out those newsletters that are niched down. You're going to want to have landing pages that are connected to pain points that this group is experiencing. So that is a definitive yes to answer your first question about segmentation. Very important. It can really help you. General marketing doesn't work on anyone anymore. Very, very rarely is generalized marketing going to work. People are so over inundated with ads. They want something that speaks to them, and that's across the board. But Gen Z in particular is inundated with ads just because they are so connected, and they're always looking at screens. They're always on social. They're always having ads thrown in their face from some avenue or another. So yes, definitely segment. Second thing, as far as pain points go, you might be thinking this group doesn't have a lot because they're so young, but they actually do. Definitely gig economy work, multiple job work. This is a group, very few of them have one stream of income. A lot of them are doing things like content on the side. They might have a part-time job while they're in college. They might be a recent graduate with, a W-2 position, but it doesn't pay a lot. So they're also driving Uber or delivering DoorDash or something like that. And then, like Lee mentioned, you have the NIL world, which is huge and new and very confusing for the people within it. So there are a lot of places here that you can hook people and offer them help. So I think as far as messaging goes, the thing you need to recognize is that this group, they are willing to pay a reasonable amount of money for very transparent services that they know will help them. They haven't built the amount of wealth yet that they're going to be willing to pay on the whole thousands and thousands of dollars a quarter for like tax planning, unless they happen to be some sort of upper echelon NIL person who's going to go on, to become a professional football player or something like that. But on the whole, you need to be speaking to these people like they're in their 20s, because they are. And they don't necessarily have the type of disposable income that older clients would have and feel secure spending. So I think one really good way to hook this group is to compare the cost of your service to something else. Tell them that for, however many lattes a month, or however many pairs of Louboutins a month, or whatever it is, that they can have access to your service that could then help them buy this many more lattes or this many more pairs of heels or whatever it may be. Because by showing them that you're going to actually improve their lifestyle, they are very lifestyle oriented. So if you can show them that you're going to make their life better, they will be willing to pay you for your services.
Please, please, please also continue something about time value of money and saving. These people at this age can benefit the most by just throwing away a little bit of money on the side. Just show them, perhaps an article about if you put $300 a month starting at age X, when you are 60, this will be, and if it grows at X, the compounding rules here, you will have an incredible amount of money. And it's something that I think this generation has not been educated on. And I definitely think that should be something that you include in here. So, all right. So we got the picture. What kind of visuals am I using? What kind of a color scheme? Like, am I making this a super simple story and narrative? So meaning they can scroll down and if I create a landing page, for example, is this simple headline, a sub copy, 2 or 3 pain points, and then I'm walking them through a story that you just gave some examples of? Or am I doing really long narratives and something that they're reading for a long period of time? Their attention span is much shorter, so I know the answer, but go ahead and share that if you could.
Yeah, you're not going to want to write the great American novel here. Let's just say that. So you're going to want to keep it short and sweet and to the point, something that's going to resonate with them, something personal, something that talks directly to them. Use you statements, not third person. Talk to these people. As far as imagery goes, they're kind of an interesting group because there are, as with any generation, a lot of subsets within Gen Z. I'm a big fashion person in my free time, and Gen Z fascinates me from like a stylistic and aesthetic perspective because some of them are very into, maximalism and over the top imagery and just lots and lots of color and brightness and everything you can throw onto a page, while others are really into minimalism. So it's hard to pigeonhole, but keep it clean. Keep it something that's going to be easy to read on a phone, no matter what style you go with. Keep everything very, very clean because people don't want to be scrolling through something that looks like it was made in Microsoft Paint in 1995. So keep like that kind of thing to a minimum. We don't need cursors that have rainbows trailing after them and all of that. So just keep it minimal, keep it mobile responsive, keep it something that's clear calls to action. That's another thing I want to mention. This group is not going to look forever for the call to action button. If it's not right there and it's not big and noticeable, they're not going to be likely to dig around for it because they're used to things that are in their face and easy to access.
All right. So, and I would just recommend, just follow the style of your branding, but just position it to this audience as far as the narrative goes. So now the question is, well, where am I finding these clients? And I'm going to give two logical ways. One is the social media side where they are hanging out. TikTok would be the most obvious there. Instagram as well is right there. The second area is right inside your current client database. It is the family-based referral network is what we'll call it. So it already has a sense of trust, right? If their parent, hopefully they still like their parents and trust their parents. But when a Gen X or a Boomer client recommends your services to their children, it really carries a kind of a personal endorsement that builds confidence in your expertise, right? And that, I think, is an essential element in fields like tax and accounting where they want to be able to trust you. You're not going to rip them off. You're not going to charge them too much. So there are ways now to even take that a step further with what I call this family financial health. And we're going to get into detail a little bit more on that. So option A is creating a network, referral network within your current audience. So how do you do that? You need to start creating content that says, hey, I work with the children of my clients, first of all, but start writing content that is specific to what a Gen Zer would care about. So Rebekah, let's get into that a little bit. And then I want to go back to the TikTok side and what you do there. But it's both sides. It's what type of content am I creating? What kind of messaging am I creating? So for example, how would you brainstorm some topics to cover or share for the Gen Z side?
Yeah, as always, I'm going to go to AI. Use Maps or another similar tool to start getting ideas for content clusters you can build out. And one thing that I want to mention here is that you should never be afraid to reuse content. So if there's a line you really like in a blog post that you're writing, take that line and create a TikTok video about it or a reel about it. So getting kind of this cohesive content across the board is great, not only from a branding standpoint, but from a messaging standpoint. Because if people see it on multiple platforms or in a newsletter, however you present it, they're going to be more likely to follow through. It's going to be more likely to stick. So that's just one little piece of advice. You don't have to completely separate this for one platform or another. You can kind of take bits and pieces from your blog, create TikToks, and vice versa. There's a video that does really well, create a blog post about it that's long form. That can be a good way to hammer home some of your points and build authority with Google at the same time and with the other search algorithms. So AI, back to what we were saying, AI is a great way to start. Tell it, hey, I'm a tax and accounting professional. I want to start focusing on Gen Z. Can you please help me create some talking points for them that are going to resonate with this group? I think content creation is a really, really great starting point because there are lots of Gen Z people who do at least a little bit of content creation on the side, and they don't understand what to do with those 10 or 11 or 12 or 20 1099s that they're getting at the end of the year from all of these different brands that they've worked with. One thing that I think could be interesting to address would be gifted content or gifted product that you use to create content, and the fact that that is still considered income and it is taxable. I actually had no idea that that was the case when I first started doing content a few years ago. that anything anybody sent me, I could be taxed on the value of that gift. So I think that's an area that a lot of people are confused about. People younger than me certainly are. And I think, Lee, to your point earlier, the NIL stuff is great because it's very searchable. Lots of people are interested. Parents are interested. The players themselves are interested. Coaches are interested. Highly, highly searchable right now. And something that there's not so much content around that there's a real opportunity to establish yourself as an expert.
Yeah, and I would almost sit down with like tax 101. An article could be understanding your first tax return, and start demystifying how taxes, people don't even know the difference, what a tax credit is. They don't even understand a lot of like how it works, right? What a deduction is versus a credit. And if you start working on those base levels, I think there's a lot of content that would start positioning you as a trusted resource. So when you have this content, let's talk about strategies to deliver this content to where they're hanging out. So talk a little bit about TikTok, talk a little about Instagram and some of these other channels.
Yep. So TikTok and Instagram are going to be your two primary places to find this group. Remember, it doesn't have to be the most amazing video on earth. You need to provide value first, and then focus on the aesthetics later. You might be shocked at what does really well. It might just be something you record for 30 seconds in your car when something pops into your head that you'd like to share. So with TikTok, you're going to want to focus, like I said earlier, on authenticity. This is a platform where people are wanting authentic content. They're wanting people to tell them things how it is. Instagram, in theory, is a little bit more polished, a little bit more aesthetic, a little bit more Pinteresty in some ways. However, that said, the algorithm is still going to prioritize valuable content. In both of these places, I want to encourage you to not get discouraged. It might take a while before something takes off, but if you continue posting and continue building your credibility, specifically with Instagram Reels, you will eventually see payoff. It's really important on Instagram to use hashtags. That is going to help categorize you. It's going to make it more likely that you're going to end up on the For Your page where people can go and kind of discover new reels, discover new things about topics they're interested in. And on TikTok, the more you post, the more likely it is that you're going to go viral. It's the easiest platform to get a lot of views on. Not necessarily the easiest platform to build a community on, but the easiest platform to get a lot of viewership. And all you need is people clicking on your website in your profile and saying, hey, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. They can help me. So that's kind of the rundown there. You can also cross-post. You can use the same videos for Instagram and TikTok. That's the easiest way to do it. And it's much easier for you as a creator to just make one video, download it from your preferred platform, and post it to the other.
So Rebekah, I have a problem with what you're talking about. So I don't want, as a taxer, I'm a CPA or I'm an EA, I don't want to be an influencer. So I mean, great, I get people looking at my videos. What takes them from liking or sharing my video to actually becoming a client, and then a client who then refers me to others? So explain to me, what is the catch? What is the pain point? What is that it's going to force them to, instead of do a DIY or ignore it, to actually use me as their financial advisor?
This is where strong calls to action come into play and landing pages. So I would highly recommend, and I tell people this a lot, that if you're trying to focus on a specific group within your social media, don't put the link in bio back to your main website. Put it to a landing page that speaks specifically to that generation or that group of clients, whoever it is that you're trying to reach. And this can go for things like restaurant owners, whatever. But in this case, if you have a Gen Z landing page, link to that as your link in bio, not your main site. Offer something they want. Offer some sort of a download that's going to speak to them. Maybe it's, maybe you are trying to speak specifically to NIL people and you have something that's like the top 5 tax hacks that NIL students need to know. Something like that. Something that's going to hook them, that's snappy, that's short, that's like got a number in it. Top 5, top 10 are great as far as downloads go. Use the word hack. Must know, things that are going to act as hooks, but aren't too overly jargony. Then they'll give up their information. An email, don't ask for too much. An email, a name, maybe a phone number. That's how you're going to get in touch with this group. They're not going to give you their home address and all of that. So keep it short, keep it simple, send them somewhere where they're going to be likely to give you information. Then you can reach out and really start that conversation as far as converting them into a client.
All right. So I'm going to go back to then where I started with the easiest way to do this is look at your existing client base.
Yes.
And come up with either a family referral program or this family financial health check. So like for a family referral program, basically kind of tweak your, you might already have referral programs built in, but let's do it specific to this audience. So perhaps create a filter out your boomer millennial clients, and have an offering that goes straight out to them and says, hey, we're offering complimentary consultations, or maybe it's a webinar. Understanding your first tax return in a short webinar. Don't make it super long. They will 100% watch videos though. They'll watch a webinar, make it fun, make it a little more interesting. And they're going to come away with like, oh, maybe mom and dad are right. I should start caring about this now. I shouldn't DIY it. And the whole idea, and I think Rebekah nailed it. She threw some brands out that I have no idea about, but they like to go shop and buy a bunch of stuff apparently. And my daughter, she seems to come home with these shoes, and I'm like, what is this? These aren't Nikes, what is this? But what I'm saying though is if you can start getting them excited for some sort of ROI on this investment. So like, what is the real takeaway? Will I be more successful? Will I be able to start saving for my retirement? Will I be able to start saving for a home? These are things and strategies that I think are really important to cover as far as what you're doing. And then start out with going to your current existing clients saying, hey, I'm doing a referral program. I'm going to give a complimentary consultation on X or a discount on my service. Maybe offer a free year, and to one of their children or their children, and say, it's kind of like a loyalty, I'm rewarding you as my client for being there for so long. I will do this to start creating a relationship with them. And then hopefully over time, you can continue that relationship, right? The other thing is this idea of what I call the family financial health check that covers various aspects of tax, accounting, perhaps if they're new entrepreneurs, estate planning, for every generation, and then start showing how this whole family office kind of situation, your parents are older, they're retiring, they're selling a business. How does that affect you? How are they going to care for themselves? What's the long-term care issues? Do I need to be worried as a caregiver? How do I support my parents? How are they going to pass on things to me that are tax advantage? So these are areas that you can develop a full-on campaign around. It's something that I have a new blog article that's in queue. So just come back to our blog articles. I'll post it on LinkedIn as well. That is basically a playbook on what this family financial health thing should look like. So definitely something that you can really mine your existing database, come up with some content that speaks to them, makes it shareable, and you'll at least start having some dialogue. I would try to go after the wealthier clients. I would go after, obviously, if you're going to target the Gen Z as far as like social directly, I would go after all of these athletes that are making a lot of money now. There are lots of young people making millions and millions of dollars right now. And it's not just influencers and the NIL, but there's a lot of different ways that they are doing this. So being there is they need professional help. So I don't know if they're going to try to figure it out themselves. They're probably making a ton of mistakes. A lot of them will get in trouble with the IRS, even with half the people there, but definitely something to look at. All right, so let's go into now a little bit more on what I'm going to say, some examples of messaging when it comes to values. So you keep talking about values and authenticity. You mentioned a little bit if you do some charity work, mention it, or if you're supporting causes. But how do you still make that authentic without it feeling forced? Like, and how does that tie into tax and accounting services?
So one thing to remember is that, especially if you're posting like a social type of thing, like a social cause, it doesn't necessarily have to relate specifically to tax and accounting. It's okay to have a mix of content. Not everything has to be a sales pitch. So if you're trying to build a brand and trying to build an identity for yourself, and this is really important to you as a brand, do something like One thing I talked to a client of ours about recently, actually, he helps to run a basketball tournament in his local area. His firm sponsors it. It's like a tourney for young at-risk kids. And so I was like, video your team helping out at that. And then just post a reel about how this is something you guys do and it's really important to you and it's something that you do outside of work. Because Gen Z, millennials and Gen Z, but Gen Z in particular, they want to see that they're aligning themselves with someone they can trust, not just in the office, but outside of the office. So I think remembering that it's okay to occasionally post something that isn't a sales pitch is all right. Also, aligning with these brands on social can be really helpful. So Instagram makes this super easy. There's a little button that says, is this a collaboration? You toggle it on, you tag the group, and then they approve it and it posts to both of your feeds. So that's a way to kind of help build authenticity as well, because it'll say at the top, like your brand with X organization. So it kind of builds this camaraderie between your two groups. And that's a good way to post something authentically. They may even be the ones making the reel. So you could talk to organizations you're involved with, whether it's a sports group or a soup kitchen or some other form of local charity, an animal rescue. And you could ask them if they are doing any features of their sponsors or of their volunteers. And if that's something you're involved with, just speak honestly on that video about what that organization means to you. And maybe you can organically tie it back to some of the work you do in the tax and accounting realm. Or maybe you say, hey, this is who we are outside of tax season and we love it. And this is something we're passionate about. And we would love to see you get involved too, because that's actually another way you can meet Gen Z people. You can get involved with organizations and maybe they're volunteering too. And it gives you another opportunity to connect with them and kind of start building that network.
All right. So I'm going to go one other way. And let's just go straight into the NIL side. Every college has, or most colleges have, an NIL program now. You can approach them. You could sponsor. Perhaps you offer some sort of free program for all of the athletes at a particular school. Maybe you're doing some educational content. Maybe you're working with the coaches where you can come in and do a presentation. I think this whole understanding what is going to happen to them, and you see it in the professional athletes, right? So you had all these agents and they're signing people, but I would call them, on the whole, not really sophisticated when it came to finances. And all they cared about is getting the best contract they could for their client. And whatever they do with it, go spend the money, buy the Lamborghinis, driving around, doing whatever, spending all your money. They end up broke, 3 years after their careers are over. I think it's really important, specifically at colleges, for God's sakes. It's supposed to be student athletes, right? Most of them are student athletes that are now able to make some money on the side that they could not. Not everyone is going to be the number one draft pick and make millions and millions. The numbers are very small. So there's a big opening to start doing that education process, opening up and once you sign up a couple of the kids, they're all going to refer you. You could become the resource. And then think about it, as they graduate, the new wave comes in. So you're going to have clients coming in that are going to be new opportunities every single year. And then hopefully, as you follow with these people that you built this good relationship, those now become clients for life. So just a super simple way to do this. So I think we've defined who Gen Z is, what's important to them, narrative style, focusing on them specifically in a marketing, whether that be content or messaging, imagery, the way you set it up. We've talked about the hooks, the calls to action, makes it really clear and simple. Let's talk a little bit about perhaps that discovery call process. So you don't want to sound like a salesperson. You also want to be able to not waste your time. No one likes wasting their time. But how would you go about that process to be able to say, hey, is this a potential client for me or not? Are there some open-ended questions you ask in the beginning? How does that kind of drive then someone to become a client? How do you show value during that process to make these leads that are coming in, people that want to talk to you, actually become clients?
So social proof is going to be important here. Have a couple of examples prepared of situations where you have helped someone in their age bracket. and what you've done for them, how much you've saved them, what you've helped them buy, that type of thing. That's going to go a long way with this group. And another thing is to remember that this is a group that has grown up sharing everything about themselves online. They're posting their breakfast, they're posting their morning commute, they're posting everything. So give them a chance to talk to you. Don't make it a sales pitch. Lee, you already hit on this, but kind of ask them, what are you looking for? Hey, what's your life like right now? Where are you making money? What do you need help with? And then come back with this social proof of, hey, okay, I already worked with somebody who was doing X, and this is what we were able to do for them. Because the more you can show these people that you understand their generation, you understand where they're coming from, and you've already experienced their exact types of financial circumstances, the more likely they are going to be to choose you and go with you. So I think the most important things, just brief takeaways, are to let them talk, let them explain what they are looking for, and then have proof available of how you can help them. And don't just over inundate them with technical terms and information. They want real advice. They don't just want to hear a bunch of jargon and a bunch of sales pitchy stuff.
And the good news too is they're going to be open to a lot of this new tech that's coming in.
Yes.
So a lot of the AI automation, these intake forms, these onboarding, automated onboarding, making sure your client hub is proactively asking for things and sharing things, I think is going to be, they're much more scalable if you think about it.
Yeah.
So definitely something to think about. So I think I'm going to wrap up our Gen Z side. It all comes down to being authentic first, digital first, tailored messaging to the clients, find different niches inside of each group, whether that be NIL, crypto, gamers. There's people making an incredible amount of money as gamers. It's a whole nother industry that I bet you most tax and accounting firms, unless it falls into their lap, are not targeting these audiences. So I think what you're going to find is there's a whole new way to grow your practice. There's still a ton of word of mouth here if you're integrating the family and the family referral side. So a lot of opportunities. So that wraps up our demographic series. If you have only listened to this one and want to go back, we have them listed on the CountyWorks Pro website or our YouTube channel, where you can access the boomers, Gen X, millennial, and now the Gen Z. So I hope this has been eye-opening for you and kind of getting an idea. Again, certain groups hang out in certain areas. So that's why this one way of marketing, kind of the old way, I think a lot of that people are realizing it just doesn't work anymore. So by going through and focusing what's different in each group, where they are, how you target them, understanding it is okay not to be this general message. I'm a CPA and I offer all these services. It is better to say, here are my packages and services for boomers. Don't call them boomers, but just whatever. You understand. This is my Gen Z. So create some content around this. You will find some lucrative niches here. And when I say scalable, it's something where you can do 3-4 times the amount of clients than you could being a generalist. You're gonna be able to do processes that are repeatable. You're going to be able to bring clients in and out much quicker. So I think it's a lot more profitable, really. So hopefully this works for you. If you have any questions for us, feel free to reach out to us at LinkedIn. Send any comments or questions. If you're watching the YouTube video, you can do that here as well. If we post this on LinkedIn, do that as well. So if you have any questions about the services that CountyWorks provides, please visit countyworkspro.com. We are experts at doing this. We know how to market. We are not the same website, the same messaging for every client. We sit down, we have a process we've created to find out what makes you special, how to then communicate that through various channels, and then how to automate that to make it really easy for you. So definitely feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you, and we will hopefully see you on our next edition of our Growth Minded Accountant podcast. We're going to step back for a little bit. It's busy tax season and kind of regroup. And we have some really exciting things on ROI that are going to be coming up. Ways that you can get real quick returns on investment right after tax season. So look forward to some of the new content. Hope you're enjoying a successful tax season. We'll talk to you soon.